Imagine a single cat holding the fate of humanity in its paws. That cat is Judd, born with an uncanny knack for reading outcomes, his talents soon exploited by warring nations desperate for any edge. Military brass whispered his judgments like gospel, directing missile strikes and troop movements with eerie precision. Yet even Judd couldn't foresee the apocalypse he would indirectly help unleash. Long before ink ever spilled across turf war arenas, a brilliant but shadowy scientist tinkered in secret. This professor created a mysterious device known only as the Splatfest Printer. Its true purpose remains lost to history, but pro-tinkling whispers claim it transmitted human debates across frequencies, as if echoing the old world's unending cycle of conflict. Whether the machine spread propaganda or simply broadcast carnival themes, it became a prized asset. Nations bid in hushed auctions, offering gold and weapon-grade uranium for a single printer cartridge. Sensing moral decay, the professor made a final, defiant choice. He spirited Judd away from battlefield auctions and injected the cat with a revolutionary serum rumored to grant immortality. In one climactic act of redemption, he placed Judd into cryogenic slumber and vanished into the labyrinthine corridors of his underground lab. The Splatfest Printer, now silent, gathered dust beside Judd's suspended form. Meanwhile, on the surface, humanity's hubris reached its zenith. Global warming spiraled beyond control. Civil wars crippled entire continents. Historians debate just how many conflicts erupted between the First and Third World Wars, but concrete records end abruptly with the cataclysm of World War V in a final desperate bid for supremacy. A nuclear warhead of unprecedented yield was detonated atop Antarctica. The blast didn't just crack ice, it liquefied the entire continent in a searing radioactive tide. No warhead in our modern timeline could achieve such devastation, but this was humanity at its most reckless. That singular explosion reshaped oceans, raised sea levels, and ignited a planet-wide chain reaction. Coastal cities collapsed under relentless tsunamis. Atmospheric shocks blackened skies. Within weeks, billions perished, choking on ash and radioactive spray. Only a handful of underground sanctuaries, some improvised by desperate survivors, offered fleeting refuge. Despite the horror, faint whispers suggest small enclaves endured. In one bunker, a group of engineers rigged the old Splatfest printer into a makeshift broadcast hub, sending garbled radio signals into the void. But without power or fresh ink, the machine fell silent, becoming another relic of a doomed civilization. Above, the world cooled into an icy tomb. Deserts formed where oceans once roared. Forests reclaimed cities like ghostly skyscrapers. And in the heart of a ruined laboratory, Judd's cryocamber hissed open. The cat emerged, eyes unclouded by centuries of sleep. The lone link between humanity's final folly and whatever would come next. But that was only the beginning. What emerged from the floodwaters would prove far stranger than even the boldest predictions of that long-vanished professor. When Antarctica's ice cap vaporized in an instant, seawater surged across every continent. Coastal metropolises, once beacons of human achievement, drowned beneath kilometers of radioactive brine. Yet in the darkness, ingenuity flickered. Small pockets of the population had anticipated disaster and retreated underground, carving out hidden sanctuaries and abandoned subway tunnels, deep mines, and reinforced bunkers. Among these refuges, to rival visions of humanity's future took shape. In what was once North America's Rust Belt, engineers repurposed defunct oil rigs and decommissioned missile silos to build Octo Valley, cylindrical domes of steel and polymer domed over subterranean reservoirs, housing hydroponic farms and intricate water recycling systems. Powered by geothermal vents, Octo Valley initially flourished. Its residents, engineers, technicians, and former military officers maintained strict protocols, rationed food, scheduled breathing cycles to scrub carbon dioxide, and 24/7 diagnostics on life support machinery. But Octo Valley's isolation bred stagnation. Generations born underground never felt rain or tasted wind. The society became rigid, its leaders obsessed with maintaining the status quo rather than adapting. When power plants began to fail and critical parts ran out, the lights flickered for the last time and Octo Valley fell silent, its few survivors lost to darkness. Far to the south, in a network of abandoned subway lines beneath the Andes, the community of Alterna took a radically different approach. Led by a cadre of scientists and philosophers, Alternians harnessed a shimmering mineral they called mindstone, a crystal rumored to possess neurosynaptic properties. Walls lined with thousands of mindstone shards created a soft azure glow, simulating the sky and providing low-level neural stimulation to offset sensory deprivation. Alterna became a sanctuary for thought and innovation. Its citizens shared collective dreams through the crystals, collaborating on new inventions, self-healing polymers, algae-based biofuels, and miniature fusion cells. Birth rates stabilized, and for a time, it seemed humanity might rise again. Yet the Mindstone's side effects proved fatal. Over decades, the crystal's radiation leached into water supplies, causing maddening hallucinations and genetic mutations. In a catastrophic collapse, tunnels caved, power conduits overloaded, and Alterna's luminous walls shattered like stained glass, burying the society in crystalline rubble. Meanwhile, a final gambit took shape above ground. Scientists aboard the privately funded spacecraft Ark Polaris believed salvation lay in the stars. Loaded with embryonic banks, seed vaults, and a rotating crew in stasis, Polaris launched into orbit, destined to scour new worlds for a fresh start. Among its passengers was a solitary bear, chosen as a test subject for xenobiological research. Polaris faced disaster at every turn. Micrometeoroid swarms punctured hull plates. Life support systems cycled dangerously close to failure. With fuel reserves dwindling, the mission aborted its original course, skirting the moon to slingshot back toward Earth. But by the time Polaris re-entered the atmosphere, its thrusters were spent. The vessel burned through orbital decay. For millennia before crashing into the raging seas, somewhere near the frozen wreckage of the former Arctic Circle, when the capsule finally breached the surface, only one life sign remained. The bear, battered but alive. Was it still the same creature, or had eons in orbit transformed it into something else? The answer vanished beneath waves of plankton and radiation. By the time all domes collapsed and Polaris fell, humanity teetered on the brink of extinction. Thousands of years of bleak survival had whittled the species down to a handful of scattered survivors, most of whom succumbed to disease, starvation, or despair, long before their descendants remembered what sunlight felt like. Yet from the dying embers of mankind rose seeds of something new. Waterborne creatures, sponges, mollusks, and fish absorbed leaked Mindstone particles and mutated radiation. Accelerated evolution reshaped fins into rudimentary limbs. Gills gave way to primitive lungs. Intelligence blossomed where consciousness once lay dormant. Above, Judd the cat emerged from his cryocamber, as bewildered as any newborn, but he was no longer alone. In the flooded remains of Earth, a new chapter had begun, one written in ink, not blood. In the silence that followed humanity's collapse, the oceans became crucibles of transformation. As the last bastions of intelligent life fell, leaking technologies and toxins seeped into currents that once teemed with only mundane fish. Mindstone fragments from Alterna's ruins dissolved into brine, infusing plankton with latent neuroactive properties. Radiation from Antarctica's warhead lingered in deep trenches, triggering rapid genetic shifts. In this strange new world, evolution's clock rewound and raced forward all at once. At first, changes were subtle, small reef fish displaying curious problem-solving, remembering the shape of fishermen's S-nets days after encountering them, octopuses experimenting with rudimentary tool use in hydrothermal vents, jellyfish forming loosely coordinated swarms that navigated murky waters in synchronized pulses. But within centuries, these adaptations crystallized into full-blown sentience. The ocean floor hummed with whispered communication as coral colonies infused with stray Splatfest Printer frequencies pulsed in muted, coded light, relaying environmental data like living server farms. Among these proto-intellectuals, 3 lineages surged ahead. Early Inklings emerged near coastal shallows, where concentrated Mindstone runoff met warm currents. Fins and scales gradually morphed into soft, rubbery pads that expelled colored mucus precursors to what we now call ink. Their eyes, once simple lenses, developed dual function, one pupil tuned to ultraviolet bioluminescence, the other to surface-level light. Crucially, a mutation in their lateral line organs endowed them with near-telepathic empathy, allowing Inklings to sense mood shifts in their peers, social glue essential for complex communities. Deeper down, in submerged caves and bomb-crater trenches, Octarian progenitors drew power from geothermal vents and radioactive nodules. These cephalopods grew larger, their tentacles developing segmented musculature for both delicate manipulation and brute strength. Bioluminescent suckers evolved alongside natural jet thrusters, enabling swift bursts of movement across vast underwater canyons. Over generations, Octarians formed clan systems, hierarchical collectives led by the most cunning strategists, who used ink clouds not just for camouflage but as broadcast signals in territorial rituals. Jellyfish and comb jellies, awash in elemental chaos, forged hive consciousness. Tenuous neural strands powered by ionic shifts linked individuals into vast, flowing networks that spanned miles. Yet, in rare instances, some jellyfish severed from the collective, sprouting rudimentary brains and gravitating toward solo identity. These rebels adopted more complex body plans, elongated tentacles that acted as sensory antennae, enabling them to negotiate one-on-one alliances with Inklings and Octarians alike. As these new intelligences coalesced, the planet's chemistry shifted. Oxygen levels stabilized in previously anoxic depths, creating underwater skies, where protobirds of bioluminescent plankton flitted through currents like living lanterns. Kelp forests grew into towering forest-like structures, nodding and swaying in the tide as if in silent applause for evolution's wild symphony. Yet the most profound leap occurred when Inklings made their first tentative foray onto land. A handful of adventurous scouts descendants of shore-dwelling Inklings ventured into newly exposed coastlines, where receding floods revealed coral-encrusted ruins. Their semi-amphibious bodies struggled to retain moisture, saltwater burning their nascent lungs. But necessity forged innovation. Ink glands retooled to secrete a waxy film that slowed dehydration, while skin pigments hardened into natural armor against UV radiation. And so, with quivering limbs and hearts alight with curiosity, Inklings took their first steps on parched earth, a one-way passage they would never reverse. Octarians, bound by guild-dependent physiology, remained underwater guardians. Their cities, built in vast underwater caverns, blossomed with biosculpted spires of calcium carbonate, lit by phosphorescent algae. Trade routes opened between Inklings and Octarians as Inklings bartered surface treasures, driftwood relics, fossilized Splatfest Printer parts for Octarian knowledge of deepwater navigation and abyssal forges. By the time Judd blinked awake from 10 millennia of sleep, the world he saw was unrecognizable. No trace of skyscrapers or highways remained, only sprawling ink-dappled coastlines and metropolis-sized kelp jungles. But in every pattering heartbeat of this new biosphere, Judd's silent judgment would again shape the future. Long before towering skyscrapers of ink rose above coastal ruins, Inklings built the first great cities of the New World among sun-baked dunes and coral-encrusted stone. These proto-Inkling architects took inspiration from half-buried relics of human civilization, crumbling ziggurats and eroded, sphinx-crafting pyramid-like structures hewn from coral limestone. Their cities spread around oases formed by residual freshwater springs, with gleaming white walls inlaid with stripes of colored ink that glowed faintly at dusk, a tribute to their oceanic heritage. At the heart of each city stood a massive sarcophagus, carved in Judd's likeness, worshipping the categorical as both judge and protector. Inkling priests conducted elaborate ceremonies beneath vaulted chambers streaked with phosphorescent algae. Pilgrims traveled for miles across shifting sands, carrying vials of sacred ink. Legends says that a single drop could grant prophetic dreams mirroring Judd's ancient visions. Children learned to read the lines of ink trails like star charts, discerning omens of rain, bountiful harvests, or impending conflict. Yet civilization's grandest achievement was also its most perilous: the invention of the ancestral turf battle. Scholars believe the first turf wars emerged not from bloodlust, but from a desire to settle disputes without permanent carnage. Two clans would face off in a ritualized contest, each side wielding rudimentary ink slingers, hollowed reeds dipped in colored goo-and painting patterns across a designated field. A council of elder judges sworn to impartiality tallied ink coverage to declare a victor. These early skirmishes were festive affairs, complete with music, dance, and communal feasting. Victorious clans gained prestige and favored grazing lands. The vanquished accepted defeat with ritual humility. But as centuries passed, turf battles grew more elaborate and more deadly. Ink slingers evolved into hand-carved splatter weapons powered by pressurized kelp sacks, capable of blasting ink dozens of meters. Judges became prized trophies, whisked away to mobile judging platforms mounted on crude wagons. The lines between sport and war blurred when ambitious warriors discovered that colored ink could be weaponized. A sudden cloud of dense black ink could blind rival combatants, inciting panic and trampling. Despite the risk, turf battles remained central to Inkling identity. Cities formed loose alliances, confederacies of color-binding clans to mutual defense against raiders or amphibious predators. These alliances convened at seasonal gatherings under the full moon, pooling ink reserves to refill the great fountain at the Judd sarcophagus, symbolizing unity in tribute to their feline judge. Yet the most storied turf skirmish predates recorded memory. Legend speaks of the Crimson Clash, where 24 clans convened at Sunset Basin under a blood-red moon. As the battle commenced, an unprecedented earthquake, echoes of shifting tectonic plates weighted with millennia of ice melt split the basin in two. Ink flowed into the newly formed chasm, staining the valley walls for generations. Elder judges dispatched runners to Judd's ancient sarcophagus, pleading for a sign. In response, the cat's stone visage cracked open, revealing a living Judd, his first awakening after cryogenic slumber. In a single resonant meow, he proclaimed an end to senseless violence, sealing turf battles until a time when Inklings mastered both ink and empathy. That era of enforced peace lasted a season just long enough for holiday celebrations to erupt in every city. But it also inspired Inklings to erect the Hall of Remembrance, where fallen champions' weapons were enshrined throughout the world. Similar shrines sprang up near Judd temples. Inkling artisans carved murals depicting past conflicts, their swirling patterns depicting not gore but the harmony born from rivalry. As the sands shifted and the tides rose once more, these ancient cities succumbed to time and tide. Pyramid tops crumbled beneath brackish storms. Sarcophagi corroded until only faint whisker-like striations remained. But the echoes of those early turf battles endured in every sluiced arena, in every cherished inkslinger, and in the ever-present reverence for Judd's silent, judging gaze. Tensions that had simmered for centuries finally ignited into all-out conflict. As Inklings spread across newly emerged coastlines and Octarians expanded their deep-water realms, overlapping territories became rising tides. The echoes of Antarctica's melting swallowed ancient trading posts, leaving scarce shorelines for both species. Competition for Zapfish-powered energy sources intensified. Against this backdrop, the most devastating conflict in post-human history erupted. The Great Turf War. Year 1 opened with disaster for Inklings. Their early warning system's remnants of Judd's cosmic signals failed to register advancing Octarian spearheads, under the command of a fierce Octoling warlord. Armored Octotroopers deployed rain bombs, concussive ink charges that unleashed torrents of brine and ink in equal measure. Inklings awoken during their midday siesta scrambled to their weapons but arrived too late. Ink-Aranus, once joyous fields of friendly competition, became muddy carnage zones. By sunset, Inklings had lost not just turf but faith in their own defenses. Into that abyss stepped Captain Cuttlefish, a legendary weapon maker whose name would echo through ages. A veteran of early skirmishes, Cuttlefish rallied scattered Inklings under a black flag emblazoned with Judd's silhouette. Alongside him marched a ragtag platoon later immortalized as Squidbeak X, and consisting of 2 unknown Inklings, Judd's reawakened judge and Cuttlefish himself. Their first victory came at Hammerhead Ruins, where they outmaneuvered Octotroopers by luring them into tidal flats at low tide, trapping sentries in ankle-deep ink. Word spread, Inklings could fight back. Year 2 saw a dramatic turnaround. Cuttlefish's strategists reverse-engineered Octarian trench ink, devising splatter shots capable of neutralizing rain bombs mid-air. The tide literally turned at Schellendorf's stronghold, a fort carved into coral cliffs. Under moonlight, stealth Inklings scaled walls, soaked in ink-resistant kelp slime, and sabotaged Octarian power cores. Judd, ever the impartial judge, cast the deciding ink, trails scattered across battle flags to seal the Inklings' first major victory. But victory came at a grim cost. Both sides deployed weapons of mass, sticky ink, mines laced with acidic pigments that ate through armor, and octospears tipped with mind-altering glowstone shards, inducing hallucinations so vivid that soldiers turned on their own allies. Reports speak of entire battalions lost to phantom enemies, ink-stained corpses drifting along shorelines for days. Records of Geneva-like conventions vanished under layers of battlefield sludge. Mercy was a forgotten concept. Amid the chaos, Inklings developed a siege weapon that changed the war's tone. The ink cannon, mounted atop ancient Judd monuments. These devices hurled massive charges of low-tide ink, temporarily flooding trenches and disabling Octarian forges. At Coral Bridge later, renamed Bridge of the Fallen to Ink Cannons Unleashed, synchronized barrages, creating an ink flood 6 meters deep. Octarian warships, designed for deep currents, found themselves grounded and immobilized. The ensuing rout marked Octarians' first true defeat on surface turf. Despite such victories, neither side could claim absolute control. Treaty talks dissolved in ink-blotted hallways and truces broke under cover of night raids. Judd remained aloof, oscillating between battlefields with inscrutable meaning, as if weighing each side's merit. Some Inklings worshipped him as the ultimate peacemaker. Others whispered that he secretly favored whichever clan offered him the richest ink sacrifice. By war's end, both species were exhausted. Decades of fighting had hollowed out coral cities and scarred every beach. But Inklings' larger population and adaptability won the day. Octarian survivors retreated to cavernous sanctuaries, what would become modern. Octo Valley and Octo Canyon, where they rebuilt in the deep, choosing subterfuge over conquest. The Great Turf War's legacy endured far beyond its bloody years. Inklings erected monoliths of petrified ink at battle sites inscribed with the names of the fallen. Annual Inkfall memorials commemorate the first high tide that washed away battlefield debris, a solemn reminder of conflict's waste. And though peace settled on the surface, the world remained fragile, held together by the same ink that once divided it. When the last echoes of the Great Turf War faded into the coral crags and ink-stained sands, Inklings faced a new challenge. rebuilding civilization from ruptured ruins. Out of the battered battlefield at what was once Inkfall Lagoon rose Inkopolis, a sprawling metropolis of steel, glass, and phosphorescent ink. Architects salvaged Octarian forges to power neon billboards that glowed beneath eternal dusk. Engineers rerouted deep-sea geothermal vents to heat subterranean subway lines, where once clans fought for scraps of shoreline. Citizens now queued at food stalls, selling grilled shellfish and Zapfish lattes, steam hissing around neon pink cups. Central to Inkopolis's revival was the discovery of Zapfish energy. These bizarre crustaceans, once trapped beneath Octarian strongholds, emitted electrical surges when agitated in their cerulean coils. Inkopolis' founders harnessed Zapfish in vast power converters, gigantic aquarium halls, where thousands of Zapfish pulsed in synchronized swarms. Their energy lit every street lamp and charged every ink reservoir in the city's bustling turf arenas. These arenas became cultural crucibles. Turf wars, once brutal conflicts over territory, transformed into ritualized competitions that drove both commerce and community. 2 teams of 4 Inklings donned color-coded gear, sprinting across concrete fields divided by barriers of sprayed ink. Banners fluttered from scaffolding, and holographic judges updated descendants of Judd's ancient sarcophagus, sensor-scanned ink coverage in real time. Victors earned ink credits, social prestige, and access to prestige gear shops stocked with custom rollers, blasters, and headgear that granted special abilities like faster charging or stealth ink. Yet nothing captured the city's imagination quite like the Splatfesta, weekend-long festival where citizens picked sides in lighthearted debates. Dogs versus cats, ketchup versus mayo, order versus chaos. Rumor whispered that the long-dormant Splatfest Printer in the old Professor S lab still hummed to life during these events, channeling human versus questions encoded in radio frequencies. Whether that was myth or mechanical marvel, the printer's cryptic magic fueled Inkopolis's greatest spectacle. Each Splatfest began with a citywide rally. Neon confetti rained over Grand Plaza as Callie and Maritha, twin descendants of Captain Cuttlefish and first champions, turned. Pop icons took the stage. Their electrifying duet Neo Calamari echoed through skyscrapers. As they sang, massive urns of ink hissed open, spouting 2 contrasting colors across the plaza floor. Citizens rushed in, splashing through puddles of neon blue and hot pink, choosing sides with gleeful abandon. Battles followed in every arena. Matches streamed live on holoscreens perched on rooftops. Chatter erupted in cafes and subways as Inklings tracked their team's performance. Behind the scenes, tournament organizers tapped ancient fax machine signals pulled from long-forgotten frequencies to generate random Splatfest themes. No 2 festivals repeated, keeping excitement at a fever pitch. Bets were placed on matchups. Designers released limited edition gear. Street markets thrived on the chaos of competition, yet beneath the carnival atmosphere lay a deeper resonance. Splatfests honored Inklings' shared history of scarcity and strife. Each contest was a reminder that rivalry could unite rather than destroy. Even the losing side walked away with ink-soaked camaraderie, exchanging high-fives and trading gear as dusk fell and neon lanterns flickered on. In a world once torn by blood and brine, Inklings discovered that friendly ink wars could forge far stronger bonds than any battlefield alliance. But as Inkopolis grew, whispers of human signals grew louder. Archivists scoured underwater ruins for messages from the Splatfest Printer, clues to humanity's vanished debates. Some claimed to detect fragments of a half-forgotten world. Protests about oil pipelines, cheers for sports championships, even romantic confessions broadcast in static-laced bursts. Whether these were echoes of genuine human voices or clever forgeries by the printer's last programmer, Inklings treated them as relics, mysteries to ponder as they splashed through neon puddles. Through every Splatfest, through every turf match, and Zapfish-powered sunrise, Inklings carried Judd's silent verdict in their hearts. From the statue in Grand Plaza etched forever, with the phrase, "Judge not," play on to the scribbled tags in Backley tunnels, the cat's legacy pulsed with every ink cannon roar. Inkopolis wasn't just a city. It was a living testament that life, even when born from flood and fallout, could carve something playful, resilient, and unbreakably colorful. Years after Splatfests became Inkopolis's heartbeat, a new crisis emerged from the shadows beneath the city. DJ Octavio, once defeated and forgotten, had retreated to the ruins of Octo Valley. There, amid collapsing tunnels and flickering power grids, he rebuilt his arsenal and plotted revenge. His prize, the great Zapfish, the city's electric heart. And this time, he wasn't just targeting Inklings, he wanted the idolized Squid Sisters themselves. It began with whispers of Zapfish disappearing from Inkopolis Plaza. Power converters sputtered, plunging holoscreens into darkness. Citizens panicked as street lamps dimmed, but the mayor's office dismissed it as routine. Maintenance until the unplugged jolt that should have roared through Grand Plaza fell silent. Inklings realized, too late, that these were Octavio's orchestrations, distractions masking a raid deep within the subway grids. Enter Agent 4. A newcomer to Inkopolis, this lone Inkling had grown up on the outskirts, far from neon towers, unaware of Callie's pop facade or Marie's hush-hush investigations. When the calamari incantation crackled through the airwaves, summoning a secret mission, Agent 4 answered the call. Armed only with a freshly minted hero shot and a steely resolve, they descended beneath the city to rescue both Zapfish and Idol. Captain Cuttlefish now, simply Captain, briefed Agent 4 in a damp, echoing chamber beneath. He handed over a CQ-80 decoder, salvaged from Alterna's ruins, and warned, Octavio's Octobot King has grown stronger. You'll need help. And that help came from an unlikely source. Lil Judd, a clone born in a lab mishap during the first Squid Sisters' final Splatfest, though small and insecure, Lil Judd's intelligence quotient rivaled even the original S&. His grudge against Judd's elder only hardened his determination. Together, Agent 4 and Lil Judd navigated 5 perilous sectors of Octo Canyon, flooded shipping yards, glowing bioluminescent caverns, and steam-plumed forges where Octotroopers drilled hyper-pressurized ink shells. Each sector staged a mini-splat battle, with waves of Octarian troopers and mechanized minions testing their skill. At the end of each sector, a mysterious voice crackled over the CQ-80. Turn back now. But for Inklings, there was no turning back. Sector 1's finale saw Agent 4 dismantle a rain bomb matrix, flooding a choke point and blasting open a shattered hatch. Sector 2's challenge forced Lil Judd to override a security turret with a cunning sequence of meows and circuit hacks. Sector 3 pitted them against a mutated roller prototype that trailed venomous in-conly teamwork and well-timed. Squid drops cleared the path. By the 4th and 5th sectors, Agent 4's hero shot had been upgraded with special low-tide ink, draining Octotank shields and drips that revealed structural weak points. At the final gateway, they confronted DJ Octavio's Octobot King 2, a towering mech powered by the great Zapfish itself. Its inky tendrils lashed in arcs, and its core pulsed with stolen energy. Captain's voice came through the CQ-80. Aim for the Zapfish. Socket now. Agent for Dove beneath waves of electric ink. Lil Judd darting past to jam control nodes. A single well-placed shot shattered the socket, freeing the great Zapfish in a blinding cascade of light and electricity. With power restored, Plaza's lights flared back to life. Callie broadcast a triumphant remix of the calamari incantation, rallying Inklings citywide. But Agent 4 didn't stay for the cheers. They slipped away, knowing Octavio's darkness lingered under the waves. Lil Judd, finally at peace with his origins, vanished into Inkopolis's neon streets, ready to chart his own destiny. And beneath the surface, a new whisper took hold. Grisco's shadowy tendrils reaching ever deeper. The Book of Mata's final prophecy stirring, and Inklings facing threats far stranger than a rogue octopus DJ. Peace in Inkopolis proved as tenuous as ink on water. Deep beneath the Splatland's ancient texts surface fragments of the Book of Madai, scrawled in kelp-dyed ink centuries before Inklings stood on land. One verse chilled even the most optimistic scholar Splat. When smoke rises from the 7 rings, the pink fish emerge to devour all who tread dry ground. None knew the 7 rings, but Inklings joked it sounded like a new Splatfest theme. Till the first big run, it began with tremors rippling through Octo Canyon's core vents. Steam geysers hissed in rhythmic pulses, forming 7 concentric shockwaves rings of swirling pressure that shot skyward through fissures in the bedrock. Clouds of sulfurous gas and ink-laced mist coalesced into ghostly halos, visible from Inkopolis's neon towers. Within days, swarms of salmonids, descendants of mutated salmon, breached coastal defenses. These amphibious invaders, once hunted for golden eggs, now returned en masse, hungry for surface prey. Their hierarchy chums, Cohawks, and the dreaded boss, Salmonids marched in battalions across flooded streets. Their numbers overwhelmed Zapfish-powered barricades, rendering turf arenas into impromptu battle zones. Inklings found themselves defending plazas as if in wartime, repelling wave after wave of armored Salmonids wielding frying pans, spiked eggs, and electrified nets. Golden eggs, once trophies of stamina runs, became lifelines. When Salmonids looted Zapfish converters, Inklings scavenged eggs from boss carcasses, using them as emergency power cells. Ingenious tinkerers hollowed out eggs to house miniaturized fusion cores. Others ground the shells into catalytic dust that supercharged inkjets. Egg traders Inklings, who once sold decorative ink patterns, now brokered life-saving exchanges. 1 golden egg for 10 ink clips. 1 for a rusted heater coil. 1 for a ration of seaweed stew. Grisco Industries, the shady corporation behind endless stamina runs, suddenly found itself in the crosshairs. Agent 3, now captain of the new Squidbeak, Splatoon, boarded a rusted Grisco cargo vessel moored at the Splatland's edge. There, he discovered genetically engineered salmonid bear hybrids, overseen by Mr. Grizz himself. The bear returned. The lone mammal from Ark Polaris, now mutated into a colossal beast driven by hunger and mindstone rage. As the seventh ring faded, salmonids reached the heart of Inkopolis. The ancient prophecy's final lines materialized in panic and ink. Only the fusion of ink and egg shall quell the pink tide. In a desperate gambit, Inklings combined hero shot barrels with golden egg chambers, creating egg inkers' new weapons that spewed explosive oil-slicked projectiles. Armed with these hybrid splatterguns, Agent 3 led a counterattack on Salmonid Beach, luring hordes into shallow pools where egg inkers burst in blinding flares. Golden egg fragments fused with salmonid biology, disrupting their hive mind and sending them into disarray. In the final clash at Seven Rings Crater, Inklings erected 7 ink cannon, arrays topping them with Zapfish and egg charges. When synchronized, these cannons unleashed a vortex of charged ink and bioelectric energy that pulverized salmonid armor and sealed fissures in the earth. The tide receded. The last salmonid warlord fell, its final screech swallowed by roaring waves. Victory tasted bittersweet. Inkopolis lay half-submerged. Coral gardens choked on ink. Zapfish populations plummeted. Yet Inklings rebuilt with renewed purpose. The Book of Modi was enshrined in the Hall of Written Waves, where scribes debated its origins, human or crystalline construct of Alterna. No consensus emerged, but Inklings took comfort in one truth. Their world, born of catastrophe, thrived through creativity, cooperation, and relentless color. Still, questions linger. Is the Book of Madi truly finished, or do missing pages foretell fresh calamities? Does Mr. Grizz drift somewhere among the stars, plotting his mammalian return? And will Judd's silent judgment ever signal another flood, another war, another chance for Inklings to repeat humanity's mistakes? For now, Inklings splash through neon puddles and rally in turf arenas, celebrating scarlet sunsets beneath the glow of Zapfish lanterns, ever ready to write the next chapter in ink.